thank Deb and Marav for inviting me and just to talk about fluorescence out in nature at night. I've got two sources of my interest in this. In my scientific career, I used fluorescence as an analytical tool, used it a lot. So I'm kind of familiar with the nuts and bolts of it. And then in my docenting, I've been docenting at Mid-Penn Open Space Preserve for 15 or 20 years. And early in that, I started to specialize in night hikes and often went with Debbie Briscoe, whom I think some of you know. And we early on got interested in fluorescence, carrying what tiny UV flashlights were available then. Things have changed a lot, but it kept up on this. So let's see here. Just a second. These things never seem to go easily. There, okay. So first I'm going to talk about what fluorescence is. And fluorescence doesn't necessarily involve ultraviolet light, but when ultraviolet light is used to get fluorescence, it has lots of advantages if you're out in the wilds looking for things. And I'm going to talk about that and what equipment you ought to get. First thing to get straight is bioluminescence and fluorescence often get confused. In both cases, you have something glowing in the dark, but the source of energy that drives the glow is different in the two cases. For bioluminescence, the source of the energy is a chemical reaction. It's like, the glow sticks you break and start the chemical reaction. But for fluorescence, the source of the energy is light that you shine on it. The slide here is one of our few bioluminescent critters around here, the California pink glowworm. And I'm going to speed things up a little bit because we're late, so I won't talk anymore about this one. Just to get us on the same page, I'd like to briefly review the relationship between ultraviolet and visible light. So you've got the spectrum here from in wavelength from about 300 nanometers up to 700 nanometers. And here is the Roy G. Biv going in that direction. And then there's UV, somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 nanometers. You switch over from UV to visible. One thing to note here is that this side, the short wavelength stuff, is very high energy. You get sunburns from UV, not from visible light so much. Over here at long wavelength, it's low energy, and that will turn out to be important. So here's how the fluorescence works. Let's say that you have a molecule. This circle's a molecule, and let's say it can absorb blue light. Different molecules absorb different colors of light. This one's going to absorb blue. So you shine blue light on it. What happens? Well, a lot of the light is still going to be reflected and scattered, and that's it for the light. But some of the light will be absorbed. There's energy in the light. So now, at this point, the molecule is really jazzed. It's highly energized, and it will, before too long, return to its original state by getting rid of the energy. And the important thing here is how it gets rid of the energy. There are multiple pathways, multiple processes that occur in parallel, and they kind of compete for the energy. One of them, the most common one, is just dumping that energy as heat. And you go out into the sun and you get hot. That's what's going on there. One of the other possibilities is that the energy is converted into light and is emitted. That's fluorescence. The significant thing here is, though, that in that process, there's a little bit of heat generated. So you can see kind of an equation. The energy of the fluorescent photon plus the energy of the heat that's left has to equal the energy of the photon that went in, right? So this has to have, the fluorescence has to have less energy per photon than the light that went in. And what that means is that, let's see, what that means is that if you shine light, say blue here, and you get fluorescence, the wavelength of the fluorescence has to be somewhere to the right, to the lower energy. If you shine UV, you hope that you get fluorescence over here somewhere. Now, let's see. Most organisms are not fluorescent. And therefore, those that are fluorescent really stand out. Why would things not be very fluorescent? Well, for one thing, looking over here, if you shine light on something, it can't emit fluorescence if it can't absorb the light. So you pick a wavelength of light to shine on it. Only things that absorb that will ever have a chance of doing fluorescence. Everything else will be dark. The other thing that controls this is, as I was talking about before, there's a competition between just dumping the excited energy to heat and doing something nice like fluorescence with it. And for the vast majority of molecules, and molecules are just embedded in the skin of or the cuticle of an arthropod or in the tissue of a plant or something like that. For the vast majority, this process of dumping the heat is so fast that poor fluorescence never has a chance. There's a small number of cases where the fluorescence is fast enough that you actually get an appreciable amount of fluorescence out. But fluorescence is usually very dim. And so if you have any ambient light around, like daylight, it's just swamped by the other things that are going on in the daylight, and you can't see it very well. So nighttime is an ideal time to be looking for fluorescence. And also, if you are, even in the night, if you're shining blue light, say, on it and getting green fluorescence, there's going to be a whole lot of blue light bouncing around. It still may be hard to see the fluorescence, even if there's no sun shining on it. So what if you couldn't see the light that you were using to get the fluorescence, but it's still there? That's ultraviolet. So ultraviolet light you can't see the light you're shining on it. You do it at night, there's nothing else, and fluorescence just pops out if it's there. What kind of, you need a flashlight. What kind of flashlight should you get? They're going to be based on UV LEDs, ultraviolet LEDs, and they're widely available online. They have rechargeable batteries. Almost all of them will take rechargeable batteries. And how much you have to pay depends mostly on the brightness that you want. Typically, the brighter they are, the more you have to pay. But I would say that for purposes of being out in the wilds or field natural history, if you spend about $15 on the right one, you can get something that'll be fine up close. If you want to see things far away, a lot of brightness, you need to pay more money. And they're available in different wavelengths, essentially different colors of ultraviolet, from 365 nanometers up to 395 nanometers. And you always want to buy the 365 model. And that is because, so here's the spectrum again. So the border between what you can see and what you can't see is right around somewhere between 380 and 400 nanometers. It's not like you can see it, and then suddenly nothing. It's a gradual fall off over this period. So if you use a UV light that's essentially right over here. And the UV lights are not lasers with only one wavelength. They're a band, maybe 20 or so nanometers wide. So if you start to shoot UV light in that's close to this, it's going to spill over into the visible range, and you're going to see a violet background, which is just the light from your flashlight. But if you choose a UV light that is far enough into the UV, then you don't get this spill over. And here's a concrete example of that. Two scorpions, okay? The good one here is illuminated with the 365 nanometer light. The other one here is illuminated with a longer wavelength light. And you can see, yeah, you get fluorescence, but look at all of the ugly background that you get too. not as good contrast here. Okay, so now I want to talk about fluorescent living things that you might see in Northern California. And I'm going to have some arthropods, like I was kind of intending to, but I'm going to go much wider than that. Just give you a quick menagerie of things you might see. Okay, first of all, scorpions are the poster children for this. People have been looking at scorpions with ultraviolet, mostly out in the deserts at night, for ages and ages, but they had very expensive mercury vapor lights and things. Now you've got these cheap, relatively cheap UV lights. And you can see if the difference between being able to see the scorpion.
We can't see the slides. We can only see
okay.
how fluorescent works.
Okay. Sorry about that. There, how's that?
And by
Better?
the way, Jack, I'm just going to give you another 5 minutes.
Okay.
I know we got cut off, but I want to make sure that Dave gets
some time too. I shouldn't need much more than that. I can just run right through these. You can see scorpions are well camouflaged around here, but not if you show them, if you have UV. Some spiders and harvestmen are really nicely fluorescent. We have two species of millipede that are fluorescent here. During the cool, wet months, you see the millipedes. During the warmer, dry months, you see the scorpions. And here it is in regular light, and here it is in UV light, even with some visible light on it. Here is a couple of mating, and here, if you can see the crawling, watching them crawl is really a cool thing. Second type of millipede we have around here, yellow spotted. Here it is in regular light, and here is a picture by Marav in UV and regular light. Leaves, chlorophyll fluoresces red. If the leaf is really functioning well for photosynthesis, the photosynthesis gets the energy before it can fluoresce, and you don't see fluorescence. If it's not an actively fluorescing leaf, you get red. Here's a polypody fern with sorry that's not actively fluorescing. Flowers, some of them are really cool. Dandelions, very nice. Fetid adder's tongue, not so cool, but it's something. Fungi, a lot of them fluoresce. Sulfur tuft over on the left, a very common mushroom here, green under the gills. Here's a fungus that is digesting a leaf, and right where it's actively digesting, there's a lot of fungus, and it's got yellow fluorescence. Lichens are great. You go out on the trails here, you can see lichens that fluoresce blue, green, yellow, orange, and red, all sorts of colors. Here's one that's naturally yellowish lichen, but with UV illumination, it turns beautiful red. There's a lot of fluorescence in the ocean. If you want to go tide pooling at night and don't worry about waves that you can't see, you'd probably see a lot of things. Here's a jellyfish and an anemone that both fluoresce. Lots of other things do too. The brightest fluorescence you'll see of all is going to be human trash. And it's usually very bright blue fluorescence. It'll be a piece of white paper or maybe some fiber from fabric. And this is some fabric fiber. So it's the brightest thing around. The last thing I want to do is to introduce mammals. It's been found in the past, I don't know, 20 years or so, that the hair and skin of some mammals fluoresces. And bats, some bats do that. Here's a museum specimen of bat that was illuminated with violet light, and they took a picture, and you see there's a lot of violet light on that. If you screen out all the blue and the violet light from that picture and do it again here, you see the green fluorescence. Also, many of you know about white nose syndrome in bats caused by a fungus, and it causes skin lesions. And those skin lesions fluoresce yellow-orange with UV illumination. So here's a wing stretched out of a bat that's afflicted with it, and all of these yellow spots are the fungus, the white nose fungus. And this could be a diagnostic tool in the field. And that's it. Thank you.